Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this brand new edition of the NewsX Business World Panels on the Indian economy, the show where we decode the current state of the Indian economy, what stage the recovery process is in, how hard hit certain sectors have been, how much the government stimulus has actually helped businesses, and what more needs to be done by entrepreneurs themselves and, of course, the government and the RBI. As always, we have a power-packed panel joining us this evening. We have Shanmugam Nagarajan, co-founder and chief people's officer for 247.ai. Anand Kurma, co-founder and CEO, well-versed, is joining us live. Vineet Arya, founder, Cohere, is also with us live, Cohire rather. Pramod Sharda, iSwap, CEO, India and Middle East, is joining us live. And Dr. Anurag Batra, editor-in-chief of Business World, joins the panel as well. Let me begin with Anand, if I can. Anand, how...
Sure.
how hard hit was your business and your sector because of the lockdown, because of the pandemic, and what were the new sort of trends that you believe also emerged during these very difficult and challenging times?
Sure. So we observed, several counterintuitive trends. So before the lockdown was going to be announced, we saw, several states and several cities closing down their theaters and stuff like that. So obviously the team got worried that, how this will impact the demand and what's in store in the future, right? So we took certain measures early on in the game as far as manufacturing was concerned, right? So we own a manufacturing facility where we manufacture food and nutrition products. So we kind of created this entire ecosystem of quarantining our workers within the production facility, and we spent around 40 days within the production confinement itself. So 40 people from our team confined within the office premises. So those were steps we took early on, but as far as the impact is concerned, we saw a huge uptick in the demand, right? Rather than, a downfall in the demand. So we saw an uptick in demand of the nutrition products. What we faced particular challenges with was the supply chain. Several of our ingredients are based on international supply chains, and we didn't see a quick turnaround from Indian manufacturers or, the traditional business owners, taking up manufacturing of these ingredients. Yeah.
So even though gyms were shut, Anand, because of the pandemic, people wanted to still be healthy and eat healthy.
All the more, because people had a lot of time on their hands.
Okay, we seem to have lost him there. Mr. Nagarajan, why don't you come in here? Mr. Nagarajan, why don't you come in here on what you observed, and Dr. Batra will, of course, ask you a couple of follow-up questions, but generally on your sector, and you, of course, are the Chief People's Officer for your group as well. What about the emotional quotient, the human quotient? How challenging was it managing that, particularly at a time of work from home, of remote working?
Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity here. So we have two divisions of business. One is our traditional call center, contact center business, which is 20 years old. And we have a software products division, which is 11, 12 years old. We are in 8 countries, so we had different problems from different countries. And, the two business divisions, of course, had their own set of problems, right? Basically, for the software engineers, it was much simpler. We had to just ask them to go home and start working on their laptops from their home. That was much, much simpler. Whereas for the BPO division, call center division, we had to scram and set up all the infra for them to be able to take calls at home. So that was a big learning, big exercise. Thanks to our IT team, which is the information technology team, they made sure within a week they pulled up everything, all the stops, and got thousands of machines, 5,000, 6,000 machines home, because these are not dedicated machines for agents. We have shifts, so we had to buy more hardware, software, and of course for our environments, Indian environments, we had to buy inverters, UPS, batteries, all that kind of stuff, so that routers. So it was a good exercise. We did a good job, I would say, and pull back the revenues, within a week's time. And from the demand side as well, if you look at it, for the software product side of the business, that could wait. People who wanted to buy our software said, no, hey, give us some more time, we'll buy it later. Whereas for the call center side of business, revenue is perishable. Every day counts, every shift counts. The calls coming in for our clients, we had to handle them. We couldn't drop them. So all the more important for us to work in real time to make it happen. So it was a good exercise, but we managed.
Okay. Since you operate in many countries, give us a sense of what the challenges in India were vis-a-vis other countries. How unique were the challenges in India? Give us a sense of that.
Well, people emotions are the same for everywhere, Dr. Anurag, right? People emotions are the same. You need to keep them engaged wherever you are. People are the same, right? Whereas the technical telecom-related issues or making sure, within India as well, right? It's not like one city or one state had the same problem as the other, right? The spread, the pandemic spikes were different in different states at different times. So every state had their own rules and regulations in terms of how many people they allow in the office and how many had to work from home and so on and so forth. So it's all totally different, right? So specifically in India, we had to keep reapplying for the technology. We are called the OSPs, right? The other service providers. So the telecom department had this archaic rule, let me correct myself, where we had to have static IPs for different agents, and we had to declare that these many people are working from home and so on and so forth, month on month as we went. But to the credit of TRAI, the chairman, Mr. R.S. Sharma, did a fantastic thing a couple of weeks back, where he pulled out that rule, abolished that old archaic regulation where it has come down to, we can work from anywhere, work from home, and that has made our life simpler. In Philippines, for example, they allowed us to go to the office, but they shut all the transportation. In India, they didn't allow us to go to work, but they had transportation. So different places, different people, different.
Okay, Mr. Shanmugam, we'll come back to you, but let's bring Vineet and Pramod into the conversation.
Sure.
Vineet, you heard Anand and Shanmugam telling about their challenges and how they kind of trumped them. So tell us, how has been your business in the last 8 months? Where is it headed? And when do you see the Indian economy coming back in full bloom?
All right. So, I would say that my concept has been the more lucky one, because since 2015 when I started, I've been vociferously telling that, we don't need to work from office. There is a flexi working way, the hybrid way, because the concept of co-hire is very much a gig economy concept at a CXO level, which means a CXO will work for two companies simultaneously. So if I'm saying that a CXO will work for two companies simultaneously, which means he has to divide his time, and some portion of the time has to be remote working, right? Fortunately, Dr. Batra, this pandemic has,
accelerated
this. Yeah, right.
This concept, because we like to have captive resources. We like to have commitments that are, unidimensional, so to say.
Right.
So I agree with you. I understand the concept of a virtual CFO or virtual CEO.
Yes.
I have a mentee who has a company which is a virtual CFO, which was a CFO on hire whenever you need.
Exactly.
Now, clearly, physical presence is not so much as important as outcomes and level of involvement with the business, and you can do that from anywhere.
Anyway, exactly.
Manufacturing business has its own disadvantage of if you're in manufacturing and if you're on the shop floor, you'll have to show up. But if you take that away, most of the businesses can work from anywhere, not necessarily the home.
Yeah, so the best is hybrid. So it's not on-site, it's not off-site, it's a hybrid. And obviously certain roles has to be done on the job, on the floor, which I agree. So in fact, I think compared to other fellow panelists here, I think I've been more luckier one. And it's a blessing in disguise for me, because what I had to first convince the company saying that this is possible. Now the companies don't even ask me this question, right? So I've seen enormous, interest from senior level professionals. I think they realized that during the pandemic there is life beyond it, so they want to slightly take it easy. And the concept like us helps them not only to have a perfect work-life balance, but also have a decent earning, right? regarding
you do two jobs. How will you have a perfect life balance? You're still giving half here and half there. So
but the thing is,
unless until you call it a flexi job, which means it's not about being there 8 hours physically.
exactly.
It's about a project. It's about an assignment. It's about outcomes.
Yeah, totally. Dr. Pata, what you're saying is perfectly right. What I'm trying to say is that this is not like a 4 years or 5 years kind of an assignment. So you work for a limited time. It can be a year or 2 years, and when it gets over, the problem gets solved.
If I may ask you, Vinny, what domains? So are we talking of senior leadership also?
Yes.
This kind of
Yes.
gives sense.
Yes.
Or is it a chief legal officer or a general counsel? Is it a CFO? Is it a CHRO? What levels of jobs are being, kind of utilized in a co-hire model?
So basically, it's all on the leadership level. So CMOs, CSOs, CTOs, CFOs, CHROs, CPO, CDMOs, right? So I'm talking of senior professional, right? Now the definition of senior in today's world, even sometimes 10-year experience guys also considered to be senior because he's a domain specialist. We totally agree with that. But I'm talking of a person who can drive the business. I'm talking of CXOs who can take the business to next level. I'm talking of CXOs who can turn around businesses, right? It can be in any domain. And it's also not possible, I'm not trying to say that all the senior level positions has to be co-hired. Some can be co-hired and critical positions have to be hired. Right? So there is absolutely no doubt about
that. Business saw acceleration.
Exactly.
And give us a sense of how much has the gig economy grown. Suppose if the number of people in the gig economy were 100 in February, where are we in November? If the size was, let's say, 5,000 crores, where are we? Are we at 10,000 crores? Give us a sense if you have some numbers.
So, unfortunately, Dr. Patra, there is no organized study or research done on the gig economy because inherently, India, the gig economy exists at a blue collar level, where we see these shop guys, the delivery guys, the taxi driver guys. So this has been growing exponentially, right? Because these are the flexi jobs which everybody wants to opt because you only earn once you deliver complete a particular task. But India has never been a gig economy at a senior level, right? Today also, when you talk about gig economy, the first thing that comes into mind, a freelancer.
Entry-level jobs.
Yeah.
A
freelancer, right? Nobody thinks a CMO or a CTO can be a gig worker as well.
I think that change needs to happen.
Exactly.
And you are part of making that happen. Let me go to Pramod. Let's get your opening remarks on how your business has been and what is the pivot that you've taken in the last 8 months to be able to reinvent your business.
Okay, thanks Dr. Batra for inviting us in the show and good to hear the other panelists also over here. And my view is that we did not expect this kind of growth and the jump in the business, what has happened in the last 8-9 months. We're starting telling you over here. The initial period was tough because being a company which is a global company, so we are based in Prague, Czech Republic, that's our headquarters. We are in 50 countries. So we were the lucky ones to get the advisory in the middle of March itself that we have to shut down the offices. So it was quite surprising because India at that moment was not witnessing this kind of, any kind of problem. And middle of March, being MNC, we have to shut down the office, send us a proof that, the office is shut down, and everybody in the office was asking us, like, what's going on? I said, don't worry, it's a quarter ending, and it's in India's quarter ending, year ending and quarter ending, right? And everybody was like, yeah, numbers. So we told our employees, don't worry, just go home, and in just 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll back in office, And we told people, pick up your laptop, desktop, whatever you have, and go ahead. And being an IT company, advantage is that we already have the entire infrastructure with us where we can work from anywhere, that's because we can global company. So when we moved to home, our customers did not even knew that we were working from home. They just called, they were calling normal calls. India is a country where people want to talk, they want to speak, they can't write an email for support or service. They want to call up, they write an email, and the next thing they'll say, okay, I've sent an email to you, please check the email and solve the problem. So people didn't realize that we moved to home, and a week just after that, our Prime Minister announced the lockdown, and that's it. So I would say we are fortunate to be part of the global company. So we had the advisory, we had the infrastructure with us, and the real thing started immediately after that because being in the business of email, collaboration, and communication, we have been educating all of our customers all the time. Today email is a big platform. You should use all this technology about video calling, video conferencing. Why don't you enable people to have your collaboration let the teams come together, they can exchange information, they can exchange documents, they can.
Pramod, I'm from a era when we used to use Lotus Notes for collaboration.
Oh, okay,
I'm sure
okay.
a lot of people have forgotten about Lotus Notes, but
Exactly.
meant Lotus Notes, So clearly, we know that collaborative software existed 30 years back also.
Exactly.
And again, companies like yours have pioneered the use of collaborative software in a big way in this new environment and with new tools. I keep saying this on this broadcast and generally that we are in a 3C economy: collaborative economy, a contactless economy, and a concerning, compassionate, caring economy. We have to be today, looking after each other, and I don't mean each other in terms of only colleagues, but as a society more than ever. We all are connected more than ever, and we know what happens in one part of the world impacts us. So clearly, we have to have a consciousness that goes beyond us. While we have to be the selfish person we are, or human beings are inherently selfish. Even in a plane, there you're told first look after yourself. Only then can you look after somebody else. So that's fine. But you're right. Collaboration has become a way of doing business. Let me come back to Anand. Anand, labor is a big part of supply chain of manufacturing. Has the labor migration kind of reversed, and have you seen labor coming back? And what is the impact on pricing in terms of labor?
Right. So obviously during the lockdown, we had like huge issues pertaining to labor. But as I mentioned earlier, what we had done, we had created a confinement ecosystem for our labor to live within the production premises, right? So we had planned the capacity at which to operate, and we had budgeted for labor in that sense, right? But during those 3 to 4 months, shortage of labor was a real problem. Like everyone had gone back to their hometowns. There was no one available. Even if there was someone available, they were so unskilled. They were not worth trying, right? So we have indeed now started seeing a reverse in that trend. And in fact, now we have seen a slight drop in labor prices as far as the area we are in is concerned. So we are based out of Gurgaon production area called Udyog Vihar.
Okay, you're saying, so possibly it points to the, demand for labor being low. That means that some place the production has come down and hence the demand is low. And that means that's why the labor rates have suffered.
So
I'm just
totally speaking,
I'm extrapolating what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assumption to make, Anand?
Sure. So just to give you an anecdotal evidence, right? We have a lot more walk-ins of labor asking for jobs in our production facility now than we used to have 6 months back. So I think that clearly points to not just unemployment, but also, like adoption by the factories there.
Pramod, I have a question for you. Pramod, since you, of course, are the CEO for IceWarp for both the India and Middle East markets, if we were to compare, how the curve really has been like in the last few months in India and Middle East, and where we stand vis-a-vis the Middle East in terms of recovery, in terms of demand getting back to pre-COVID levels, how would you compare?
Well, I would say that India had a prolonged lockdown. I would say the huge time, which is the lockdown India spent, and I think Middle East recovered quickly. They had a lockdown, but it was just a month of April and the middle of May. That's it. That was a pure lockdown which they had. But the lockdown was removed. They had a curfew, night curfew. That's it. And in terms of, I think the curve, compared to India, we saw that the curve was not comparable because Middle East being in the percentages, I would say that they did very well. I would say that they could curtail death ratios compared to India and those periods over there. So I think they moved actually very fast, being a small country, nimble countries over there, because Middle East is a silo of small countries. They move very, very fast, and they could curtail the death ratio to a great extent, and they bounced back quickly. So I would say I was stuck. Unfortunately, I came to India for 2 days. I was here for just 2 days for a meeting, and I was to go fly back to Dubai, and I got stuck over here. And it was a long stuck because you can't fly. So I would say that when you see sitting in India, it's a lockdown, and until August we did not see the things happening, shaping up over here. But
Okay.
Middle East was up and running in June, July, August, and the supermarkets, the business was usual. Yes, they had a system of night curfew. That's it. So I would say compared to India, Middle East bounced back faster. Economy also started moving faster over there. The real estate is back. Apart from real estate, the business is at least in usual mode over there, I would say. That's why I would say that compared to India and Middle East over there.
Vinita, let me draw you in here on your lockdown lessons. Unprecedented times, dynamic decision making, obviously, by all companies. What have been your lockdown lessons over the past few months?
Okay, so I will, give the answers in the two fashion. One is on the personal level and on the professional level. So on a personal level, a couple of lessons that I learned during the lockdown is, health. Ultimately at the end of the day, whatever said and done, human beings need to, be prepared for any kind of medical. And trust me, even technology or science fails in front of this because they take time to react, and by the time they react, something different comes up. So obviously, hygiene. I mean, our Prime Minister has been talking about Swachh Bharat mission, but I think this is the God has actually sent this lesson to all the human beings, saying that you need to be hygiene because it really matters, not only to do, but it makes a huge difference to the whole society, right? That is one of the bigger lessons from the personal end. In the professional thing, I mean, it is very clearly the businesses has to be versatile. You cannot be fixed on what used to work 5 years back can immediately become redundant, right? You have to, keep the pace with what's happening in the world. You're no longer working in isolation, right? I come from a, family which have a lot of businessmen. They have to reorient themselves. They have to really work towards what integrating themselves with not only with the country, with the whole world. And if you don't do it, I think you will perish sooner or later. So that's a mantra, whether you're in a technology business, whether you're in a manufacturing business, whether you're in a services business, you have to align yourself with the changing dynamics of the world. I think these are my 2 cents of what has been the lessons on the personal and the professional front in the last 8 months.
And when do you see the Indian economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months? Of course, I keep saying there are variables like when the vaccine will come and when will the corona start to recede. Those are 2 variables. We have some knowledge of the vaccine, but no one can say with certainty about when will it happen. So considering whatever situation you see now, when do you think the economy will be back in full bloom?
No, Dr. Batra, in the last 1 or 2 months, I started to realize vaccine is not related to economy at all. Vaccine will take its own time whenever it comes, and how will it reach to the last person on this earth. However, I always feel that, if I see the stock market going right now, I always believe that stock market is an inch ahead of what is a reality. We are witnessing a V-shaped recovery in India, right? And we are going to have surprises in Q1 of 2021-22 financial year. There's going to be massive surprises because the way we are coming back, just that, India is not a consumer economy yet compared to what Japan and US is. But, the key sectors, apart from certain sectors like hospitality or real estate, but key sectors have started to perform. And I'm just reading what the media is reporting. Your automobile sector is doing very well. Your FMCG sector is doing very well. Your consumer durable sector is doing very well, right? A small feature, like if I go out now, the roads are pretty not full. Traffic jams is not there, but it is full, right? So I believe, my personal opinion, we have already reached the bottom of the V. We are going to move only up here, and the next 5 years will be the golden time for Indian economy. If we lose this time, we are not going to get this opportunity back. We have to increase our share. Indian share in the world economy has to go up. If it doesn't, other countries, smaller nations like Philippines, Vietnam, Korea will take us sooner or later.
They're already, look at the KPO and the BPO industry.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
already in Vietnam
Yes.
and Philippines,
Yeah.
kind of in the last 10 years, were much more price competitive. They had more policy certainty. And very importantly, they wooed these industries so strongly and brought them in. Clearly, you're right. The only thing I disagree with Vineet is that there is a fear factor that impinges on the economy. When that fear factor is there, you take large e-commerce player based out of Bangalore, even after allowing people to come, less than 10% of the workforce is reported to work, 7-8%. So clearly there is a fear factor of going out. And clearly with the third wave of Corona, that fear must be there.
It should be.
To stupid things. Okay, so clearly there is a link between economy and the fear factor. Anand, as Uday asked you, what are your top lockdown lessons? What have you learned in the lockdown that will help you in good stead in your business and in living a life where you realize your full potential?
So first, I would like to talk about it from a very, functional perspective, and this is something, an advice which startups get day in and day out. Focus on the unit economics of your business, right? Just keep going back to the unit economics and try to fix that, right? So once you get that kind of a space in terms of strategic planning, you kind of understand the importance of it, not just strategically, but executionally when you have lower cash reserves, right? So in our race to kind of grow the top line, we often miss out on the cost economics, and we say that we'll come back to it and fix it later on, right? So that is the fundamental lesson, I think, from an executional perspective. From a strategic perspective, I think Vineet highlighted this, that we need to be agile. Obviously, we need to be agile, but I'll go one step back, and what I would like to say in terms of mapping out different scenarios. So agility is one thing when you react to a situation, but already having mapped out several scenarios for different things happening, I think that allow you to functionally execute agility.
Okay, I agree with you that unit economics has become more important. Profitability is a must because funding may or may not be there. And clearly the investors have become very savvy in terms of demanding some kind of return on the investments, and just customer acquisition at any cost is no longer the mantra. Market share at any cost is no longer the mantra.
Yeah.
Clearly those corrections have happened and they may stay there forever. There may be realizations both on the investor side and the entrepreneur side that somewhere, we have to look at the basics of the business and not just look at valuations and GMVs and so on and so forth. And Anand, when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months? Vineet didn't give us a direct answer, but we'd like a direct answer from you.
So not to peg a definitive figure on when the economy will bounce back, because I'm not an expert on macroeconomics, but I agree with you there that there is a strong link between fear and the economy, but from a very different sense, right? So fundamentally, for the economy to bounce back, we need to have a surge in demand, right? And even prior to the COVID lockdown, we were seeing a slowdown in the demand. First, due to the interest rate policies of the Raghuram Rajan regime, and post that a very supply-centric fiscal policy of the Modi government. So what we haven't seen is a stimulus in the demand side of things, and until emphasis is placed on that, there's a very difficult to peg an exact amount of months or number of years when the economy will bounce back. Yeah.
Okay, so Shanmugam, clearly the last 8 months have taught us, all of us, different lessons. What are your top lockdown lessons?
These are not new lessons, but they are reiterations, I would say, Dr.
Absolutely. We've known all those things. I mean, what Anand said in terms of unit economics, that's nothing new. I mean, that's how the business should be. But for at least last 3 years, I mean, if you talk to a startup about profitability, then they talk to you about valuations. If you wanted to, as an angel investor, invest in startups, they had starting valuations that would not even be realistic discussion in today's time. So clearly, you're right, these ideas and these notions have existed before, but somehow we've not kind of brought them to the fore. So now is the time to bring them to the fore and make them count for future.
Yeah, absolutely. Financial prudence and rigor, what we've built into the company right from the beginning. Now, we've been profitable from second year onwards, right? We never compromised on profits for revenues or scale, right? So that what you were talking about helped us in these bad times, right? Even though we picked up the revenues in 2-3 weeks time, the first few weeks were quite stressful, but we made sure nobody was laid off, nobody was sent home. Even though there was a dip in business because of our some of the industries we are still supporting our travel and logistics, for example, and hospitality. These had a dip in the the volumes. The volume of business went down in these industries. So because of which we had a little bit of hurt in the business. But the other, while that happened, it took a little time for the other industry verticals like a telco or a technology or a retail clients verticals to pick up. So the middle, we were able to face the downturn a little bit because of the fundamentals we built into the company. Definitely, that helped. So no new lessons, fundamentals of taking care of your financials and more importantly, taking care of your people in good as well as bad times helped us in keeping us in good stead.
Mr. Shanmugam, for most of our businesses, you take the business Uday represents, it's a news channel. A news channel is all about ideas, it's about people. People is the only asset that you have. The people are your brand. Clearly, all services business are people driven. The level of motivation depends on the level of appreciation, and the level of involvement also depends on the level of engagement that each individual has. So clearly, people before profits, the planet before profits, and purpose, dare I say, purpose before profits. If you look after the planet, you have a purpose in life, and you look after people, I think profits are a byproduct and they'll take care of themselves. And Mr. Shanmugam, looking at various countries that you operate in, when do you think the Indian economy will come back to some sense of normal, some semblance of normal?
Absolutely, Dr. Batra. So I would like to go back to the beginning of the pandemic, beginning of how we started treating the pandemic in different countries, right? So if you compare 3 different countries, 3 different economies, one is China, one is India, and then the third one is US. China being a authoritarian state, they said if you come out, we shoot you, right? I mean, I'm just giving you an example, right? So to say, right? And then they were able to control certain levels. We don't know whether to believe the data or not, but of course, the numbers are low. And if you look at US, it was the other extreme. Total democracy. Hey, I wear the mask if I want to. Who are you to say, right? That kind of a thing, right? In India, we are a democracy. At the same time, we are much more populous than the US, close to Chinese population size, right? So, excuse me, it was a time.
Discipline sometimes.
I'm sorry?
And we lack discipline sometimes. We believe that our gods are protecting us, so we don't need a mask. Of course, gods are clearly protecting us, but they're also telling us to wear a mask. So clearly, the density and the idea of, there is a higher power there who's protecting us. So, it won't happen to me. That kind of mentality exists. And that's clearly the last 10-day surge in some way to the markets being crowded, the festive season being there. And somewhere we threw caution to winds, as has led to a resurgence. And as you know, in Delhi, the key markets have been shut down from today to be able to avoid a spread. Maybe it should have happened a couple of days before. But as you rightly said, we live on hope. And my sense is that the economy will be back the day we have a vaccine, 4 to 6 months from then. Because the distribution will start happening. And I expect the vaccine to start getting distributed in February, but definitely in March. Okay. So my hunch is by June, July, we'll start seeing the economy be back. And I think 2022 will be our strongest year.
Okay.
By August 2021, I envisage the economy to be in better shape than ever.
Okay. So that is our panel sense of when the economy will be back. We'll be back in a couple of minutes to discuss some further issues, but we have to slip into another quick break. Back on the other side.
बड़ी बीमारी मतलब हॉस्पिटल, हॉस्पिटल मतलब लाखों का बिल, और लाखों का बिल मतलब सेविंग्स खत्म। आज ही हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस करवाइए policybazaar.com पे।
अब छोटी छोटी मंथली पेमेंट्स में महंगा नहीं है। policybazaar.com, स्टैंडर्ड टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस अप्लाई।
कृषि उपज बढ़ाने एवं पर्यावरण के अनुकूल वातावरण के लिए माननीय मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी के नेतृत्व में उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार पराली प्रबंधन में महत्वपूर्ण कार्य कर रही है। भूमि के मित्र बैक्टीरिया और जरूरी पोषक तत्वों को सुरक्षित रख खेतों की उर्वरा शक्ति बढ़ाने के लिए मिशन मोड में कार्य किया जा रहा है। पराली प्रबंधन के लिए कई अभिनव प्रयोग किए जा रहे हैं। डीकंपोजर खेतों में डालकर किसानों को लाभ हो रहा है और ऐसे किसानों की संख्या लगातार बढ़ रही है। खेतों में पराली जलाने की घटनाओं को रोकने के लिए वर्ष 2017 के बाद मिशन मोड में चलाए गए पराली प्रबंधन अभियान से बड़ा बदलाव आया है।
पराली न जलाने से हमें कई फायदे मिल रहे हैं। तो हम किसानों को सरकार की तरफ से सहायता, कृषि यंत्रों पर अनुदान मिला हुआ है।
इस योजना के लिए मुख्यमंत्री जी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
खुशहाल किसान, उत्तर प्रदेश की पहचान।
True Shield hand sanitizer. True Shield hand sanitizer, made as per WHO guideline. A product of Piccadilly Agro Industries Limited, kills 99.9% germs and protects you from coronavirus. For sales and inquiries, please contact 999-61-23411. Email trueshield@piccadilly.com, alcoplus@piccadilly.com.
Welcome back from the break. You're watching NewsX and Business World panels on the Indian economy. Before the break, Dr. Batra was going straight across to Pramod Sharda for his lockdown lessons. Pramod, over to you.
Thank Dr. Batra and thank Rish. I heard the other panelists mentioning a lot of things. And my perspective, my take over here is that from the last 4 years of my journey in ISWAP, I have been traveling a lot. So practically in India, just 1 week, that's it. And 3 weeks out of India, hopping in planes from Dubai, Bahrain, Prague, and Bombay, and all those things. So all of a sudden, when you are in lockdown, you realize, okay, you have everything, but you have nothing. Because you have everything with you and you can do whatever you want, but you can't do anything at all. So that is something very difficult to digest and accept, I think. So I think at personal front, being a fitness freak myself, I learned one thing that, give more time than the usual to yourself on health. So that is, if you're healthy, you can live more better. Again, as I mentioned, as Naz mentioned, that, earlier before that, is a fundamental thing which you all knew. We all know about all these things, but you really you sit down and think, okay, yeah, these things are important. So health is important, good food is important. So you cut down on alcohol, cut down on bad food. So you become healthy by default, actually. Without doing an exercise, you become healthy. So
Pramod, just to support you, there are friends of mine who were insulin dependent.
Oh.
And just by not traveling and eating home food, they could get off insulin.
Absolutely.
And with doctor's advice, not just that they are saying, just by eating at home, still eating the, wheat and rice. If they remove wheat and rice, they'd even be more healthy. Just by eating home and not traveling and sleeping on time for about 3-4 months, 2 of my friends were able to get off insulin. I mean, can you believe that?
Absolutely.
There's no other lifestyle change, no exercise, nothing.
Absolutely.
So clearly you're right on what you're saying, that just by, making some fundamental changes in your diet, by sleeping enough, because when we travel, one, we compromise a lot on sleep. We want to get a lot more done.
Right.
If we are in the city, we're working on the plane, we're taking sometimes red-eye flights. So clearly business travel industry has suffered because, but I would say individuals have gained because we spend more time in our homes, we spend more time with our families. I mean, I've been married for more than 2 decades, and for the first time I spent 4 months with my parents. I've never spent 4 months with my parents since I got married and since I left for engineering many years ago. So clearly there have been advantages, which have been forced advantages. We've been compelled to do that. But Pramod, I would like to know from the way of doing business, as somebody who's a leader of a business, what are the changes that you made in your philosophy of doing business that has helped you?
Okay, so we were on a threshold actually. Just in the month of March this year, we had a big function. First week of March, we had a big grand party. So it's to celebrate 5 years in India. So I dropped in India from last 5 years, and a big party, and we had a big vision for this year and next year. And believe me, all that what we thought, we had to undo all that and re-strategize, re-plan the entire business. Because I give a business plan to my management for the next 5 years. The last 5 years were this, the next 5 years are going to be like this. And it wasn't a good time, but I slowly I realized what will shape up the next 5 years. What can lead to the next 5 years. I think the first fundamental change we did is to become more people savvy, more people centric actually, because ultimately the first thing what we realized, for us to grow now would be the main challenge is to get productivity out from people who are not now in front of us. So when you're there in the office, and you meet people, you talk to people, you're able to see the body language, you can see the aggression, you can, motivate people, you can talk, you give pep talks. And now suddenly it's a black screen because people say I have a network issue, I can't hear you. So I don't know what they're doing actually, so it's a big challenge. So I think the first challenge and the first thing to overcome all these things was to understand what would people think, what is their priority. So first change, I think, with what we believe, we took a call that how do we now move forward. So I think we changed the way we are going to do the business. The first step was that, okay, bring simple and very simple milestones on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Do not try to extract the maximum 8 hours, 9 hours of the day. That's the first thing we discussed, that, how do we do less and achieve more? So less and achieve more is the mantra for us right now. How do we do that? How do we still maintain that togetherness, being still virtual and not real together? So we first time had, I think like us, people had online parties, Diwali parties, online, fun events, people dancing on the laptop today. So this is something we have to change and transform ourselves and demand from our department, from HR, from finance. So everything has to go for a big change. All processes, systems, what we built, everything has to be now relook. How the system processes have to be now adopted, the pandemic and the non-pandemic right now.
So even in the post-COVID era, there will be certain things which will not go back to normal. There will be certain changes which have been affected, which will be there henceforth. We're completely out of time. We're going to have to leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.